So at the beginning of 2022, I had set myself the goal of writing one screenplay every quarter, which means 4 screenplays within a calendar year. I hadn't thought about whether they were going to be pilot scripts or features, but eventually I decided that I was going to work on a feature spec every single quarter. I had a whole plan about how I was going to spend a few weeks coming up with ideas, and then I was going to write my logline and synopsis and outline, and when all of that was done, I was going to start working on the screenplay. Spoiler alert, that's not how it happened. What did happen was, towards the end of February, I started getting really paranoid about the fact that here I was saying that I was going to write a screenplay every quarter, and I hadn't even started on the first one. Now, the good thing is I have been writing ideas down whenever I get them. I have a document on my computer where I record all of the ideas that I come up with. So the first screenplay I wrote in 2022 was a contained science fiction movie. I did finish that first screenplay by the end of March, but it was really close. I think I finished with like 3 days to spare. So for the second screenplay, I decided that I was not going to do exactly what I did in the first quarter of the year. This time, I'm going to do it the way I said I was going to do it with each and every one of those scripts. Again, that's not what happened. The second script was a paranoid thriller set in the world of influencers. I spent a lot more time coming up with the idea. It centers on a bit of technology, but eventually it is about what happens when 2 kids bite off more than they can chew. One of the things that had happened over that time was that I had started watching a lot of South Indian cinema because of streaming, and I decided that I wanted to try and write a movie set in that world. It ended up being a one man against the world kind of film. This is very clearly for an actor who is in his 50s or older, and it's about a man who is kind of unhappy with the way his life has progressed to a certain point, and he is mad as hell and is not going to take it anymore. So the fourth script I wrote is, in a vague sense, an adaptation, because I also wrote a couple of novels this year. And one of those novels is a science fiction novel, and this story is based on something that happens in one chapter in my novel. Whereas my novel is set somewhere in the distant future, I ended up making this script about something that could happen next year or within the next 5 years. By the middle of November, I knew exactly what I wanted to write, and by the first week of December, my screenplay was done. Some of the challenges that I faced with honoring my commitment to myself to write a screenplay every single quarter was that I decided that I was going to write one idea, and then when it actually came down to writing it, I realized that I was just not feeling it, which meant I had to go back to the drawing board. But the third and the fourth screenplay I wrote this year are actually largely brand new. I know that I said that the fourth idea is an adaptation, but it also required me to just think differently of an idea that I had already had for a while. And that was a very interesting experience, because we hear people tell us often enough that you need to look at an idea from multiple perspectives. This was the first time I felt like I was actually able to do that I had an idea and then I was able to look at it from a different perspective. And whereas it would have been a footnote in the novel I was writing, it has actually become its own thing in the feature screenplay. The other thing that is worth noting is that I have been able to write these 4 screenplays while also keeping my day job as a filmmaker for hire as well as a writer for hire. At the beginning of this year, I was hired to work on a paid project, and that one continues. Am I going to do this again? Absolutely. In fact, to my way of thinking, the more scripts you have, the more chances you're giving yourself at eventually getting one of them produced. If you want to know what my plan was for my screenwriting career at the start of 2022, you can check out that video here. And coming soon, my plans for 2023.